There is a particular kind of tiredness that begins to visit people sometime after the rush of early adulthood fades. It is not the exhaustion that follows a late night or a long trip. It shows up quietly. You wake in the morning and notice that your body feels as though it never quite settled during sleep. The coffee helps, but only enough to get you moving. By the afternoon, your mind feels heavy, your shoulders tight, and even small tasks seem to demand more effort than they once did. You still function. You still show up. But somewhere beneath the surface, there is a dull sense of drag, as if you are carrying an invisible weight that no one else can see. Many people shrug this off. They tell themselves this is just what life feels like now. Responsibilities accumulate, work asks more of you, time feels compressed, and rest becomes something you plan but rarely reach. You may hear others say the same thing, so the feeling becomes normalized. You begin to believe that being tired is simply the price of being an adult. Yet there is often a quiet voice in the background, easy to ignore but hard to silence, that wonders why this tiredness feels different from anything you knew before. It is less dramatic but more persistent, less sharp but more consuming. It is worth pausing there, not to worry, but to notice. Because what you are experiencing is not random, and it is not a personal failure. It is also not your body giving up on you. What is happening is more subtle and far more respectful than most people realize. Your body is communicating. It always does. It just tends to whisper long before it ever shouts. When you are younger, your body is generous with its energy. It can tolerate late nights, rushed meals, long hours of focus, and emotional strain with little complaint. It absorbs excess and smooths over imbalance. Over time, though, something shifts. Not because you have done something wrong, but because the body has learned what it needs to survive the long haul. It begins to prioritize stability over speed, efficiency over intensity. It no longer wants to borrow energy from tomorrow to get through today. Inside you, countless systems are constantly adjusting. They respond to light and darkness, to movement and stillness, to tension and release. They pay attention to how often you pause, how deeply you breathe, how safe your environment feels. When life becomes a long stretch of effort without recovery, the body adapts by turning certain dials down. Energy becomes more guarded. Alertness narrows. The feeling of tiredness is not a punishment. It is a protective response. Think of it like a well-run household during a long winter. When resources are stretched, you do not waste heat. You close unused rooms. You move more deliberately. You make sure the essentials are covered before anything extra is allowed. Your body does something similar. It senses sustained demand and responds by conserving. That conservation can feel like fatigue, fog, or heaviness. But underneath it is intelligence, not breakdown. Many people try to push past this signal. They tell themselves they need more discipline, more motivation, more willpower. They blame themselves for feeling flat or unfocused. This only adds another layer of strain. The body hears pressure as noise. It does not respond well to being argued with. It responds to being understood. The tiredness that settles in after many years of living is often your body asking for a different kind of relationship. Not more effort, but more attention. Not dramatic change, but quieter alignment. It is asking you to notice rhythms rather than fight them. To recognize that energy is not something you extract by force, but something that returns when conditions allow. This is where many people misunderstand what their body is doing. They assume that fatigue means something is wrong, that something is broken or deficient. In reality, the body rarely moves into shutdown without reason. It is constantly evaluating safety, load, and recovery. When it senses that demands are steady and unrelenting, it chooses endurance over output. That choice keeps you functioning, but at a lower hum. There is a kind of wisdom in that. A younger body is built for exploration and expansion. A more seasoned body is built for preservation and continuity. It wants you here for the long stretch. It wants to avoid burning through reserves. The signal of tiredness is its way of tapping you on the shoulder and saying that the pace and pattern Your living may no longer match what it can sustain comfortably. Listening does not mean withdrawing from life or giving up ambition. It means shifting from forcing to cooperating. When you begin to listen, something subtle changes. You stop asking why you cannot keep up the way you once did, and you start asking what your body is responding to. You notice how certain environments drain you more than others, how constant urgency keeps your system on edge, how moments of quiet, even brief ones, seem to restore something deeper than sleep alone ever could. As people move through adulthood, stress often becomes less acute but more constant. It is no longer the sharp spike of a deadline or a crisis, but a background hum of responsibility. Bills, expectations, relationships, unspoken pressure to perform and provide. The body reads this hum as a signal that it must stay alert. Over time, alertness without release becomes exhausting. The tiredness you feel is not laziness. It is vigilance fatigue. This is why rest alone does not always resolve it. You can lie down and still feel wired. You can sleep and wake unrefreshed. The body has learned to stay partially on guard. Letting go takes trust, and trust takes time. That trust begins to rebuild when you stop treating symptoms as enemies and start seeing them as messages. There is relief in realizing that your body is not failing you. It is adapting to the life you have given it. If the adaptation feels uncomfortable, that does not mean you are broken. It means the conversation between you and your body has been one-sided for too long. You have been asking it to carry on without checking in. A calm shift happens when you stop trying to fix yourself and start listening instead. Listening does not require expertise or analysis. It is simply noticing how your body responds to pace, to pressure, to presence. It is recognizing that energy returns most reliably when the nervous system feels safe enough to loosen its grip. This perspective is especially important for adults who have carried others for years. Parents, caregivers, leaders, providers, people who have learned to push through discomfort because someone else depended on them. The body often holds on to that role long after the circumstances change. It continues to brace even when there is no immediate threat. Fatigue is sometimes the body asking to be allowed to stand down. There is nothing weak about that request. It is deeply human, and responding to it does not require drastic action. It begins with respect. Respect for the signals you feel. Respect for the seasons you are in. Respect for the idea that sustainability matters more than intensity. When you approach your tiredness with curiosity instead of judgment, it softens. Not instantly and not dramatically, but steadily. You begin to feel less at war with yourself. You realize that your body has been trying to help you all along, even when its messages were inconvenient. With time, many people discover that energy is not something they lost, but something they stopped allowing to flow. It was blocked by constant tension, by self-criticism, by the belief that rest had to be earned. When those beliefs loosen, the body responds. It always does. If you recognize yourself in this quiet fatigue, know that you are not alone and you are not behind. You are simply at a point in life where listening matters more than pushing. Your body's not asking for perfection. It is asking for partnership. Sit with that idea for a moment. Let it settle. The tiredness you feel is not a verdict. It is a message delivered with patience. When you meet it with the same patience, something begins to shift. Not because you forced change, but because you allowed understanding, and understanding, especially at this stage of life, is often the beginning of real energy returning. Not the frantic kind, but the steady kind. The kind that carries you forward without burning you out. The kind that feels like coming home to yourself again.